All right, good afternoon, everybody. It's 5 o'clock. We'll call this afternoon's meeting of the Clay County Board of Commissioners to order for Tuesday, June 17th. Our first item will be the approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Bear, second by Commissioner Avery. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Motion carried. Citizens to be heard. Do we have any? There's none in the audience. Do we have any online?
Nothing, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. We'll move into approval of bills and vouchers.
Move to pay the bills.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Krabanoff, second by Commissioner Bear. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same? Motion carried. Minutes from June 3rd.
Mr. Chair, I move for approval of minutes from June 3rd.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Ebinger, second by Commissioner Krabanoff. Any further discussion on the motion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, the same sign. Motion carried. Our next item is recognition, proclamation of World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. Good afternoon, Quinn.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. As you said, I'm here requesting a motion to proclaim 2025's World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, or WEED is what we call it in the office. It's recognized annually on June 15th, so it was on Sunday, to promote awareness and understanding of elder abuse, neglect, and exploitation. Our adult protection staff play a vital role in safeguarding some of our most vulnerable residents. Their work is often behind the scenes, but it is critical. They respond to reports of abuse, neglect, and exploitation with compassion, professionalism, and urgency. Our APS staff navigate complex situations to ensure the safety, dignity, and well-being of older adults and adults with disabilities. We respectfully request that the board acknowledge Sunday, June 15th as World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. Additionally, I would like to inform you that we do have one of our APS staff members attending the WEED conference, which is tomorrow, to further develop expertise and collaborate with other professionals in the field. With that, I'd yield for any questions that you may have.
All right, any questions of Quinn? Comments? All right, Ezra, would you like to start the proclamation?
Proclamation of the World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, June 15th, 2025, whereas Clay County recognizes the elder adults are valued members of our community who deserve to live with dignity, respect, safety as they age, and
Whereas World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, WEED, is observed annually on June 15th, bringing attention to the importance of preventing abuse, neglect, and exploitation of older adults, and
Whereas elder abuse is a widespread issue that often goes unreported, with 1 in 10 older adults estimated to experience abuse each year, affecting individuals across all social, economic, and cultural boundaries. And
Whereas Clay County's Adult Protective Services, APS, staff work diligently to protect vulnerable adults, respond to the concerns of abuse or neglect, and ensure every individual has the opportunity to live free from harm. And
Whereas raising public awareness and fostering supportive communities are essential to preventing elder abuse and ensuring older adults remain connected, respected, and safe. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Clay County Board of Commissioners do hereby proclaim June 15, 2025 as World Elder Abuse Awareness Day in Clay County, and encourages all residents to recognize and support the ongoing efforts of professionals, families, and community members working to protect older adults and promote their well-being. Now, if we can just have a motion to...
I'll make a motion to proclaim June 15th, 2025 as World Elder Abuse Awareness Day.
second.
You have a motion by Commissioner Bear, second by Commissioner Ebinger. Any further discussion? I'm glad you're treating all of us elders like that.
You're welcome.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, the same? Motion carried. Thank you, Quinn. You have another one now?
I'll hang around for another one.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, all right. I'm also here to look into approve contract amendments with Sanford Medical Center and Prairie St. John's. Historically, our contracts with both of these providers excluded individuals on Minnesota probation or parole from eligibility for certain mental health services. It was expressly prohibited in statute. We had an interstate compact between North Dakota and Minnesota, and it excluded folks on Minnesota probation or parole. This is a years-long advocacy effort. It was definitely started by Rhonda, and I just got to carry it across the finish line here in the last year or so. We got support from legislators on both sides of the river. Special thanks to Representative Kupak and Senator Mathern over in North Dakota that helped us kind of get this across the finish line. We were able to get legislation on both sides passed effective March 19th in North Dakota and May 23rd in Minnesota that now permits these same individuals to be served under the existing interstate compact, and it doesn't matter now that they're on Minnesota probation or parole. So it was really nice to see that actually occur. Prior to this, folks that were on Minnesota probation or parole that were put on 72-hour holds, we didn't have good answers for. They'd go to Prairie St. John's or they'd go to Sanford and were denied service in times of mental health crisis. So this is a really good thing for Minnesota residents to be able to receive that care they need across the river. I did attach addendums, draft addendums to the contracts for both Prairie and for Sanford. These changes are consistent with the statutory intent and ensure timely and appropriate access to inpatient care for this specific population. Both Sanford and Prairie have reviewed and agreed on the updated language, but again, I'm looking for your approval. I do not anticipate any additional cost for this. These will be built into the contracts that we already have. It just adds folks to it. With that, I'd yield for any questions.
Questions? Yes, Commissioner Bear.
Where did these folks go before this?
They were turned away.
Turned away?
Yeah.
Commissioner Bear?
I was not aware this was being worked on at this point, but it was a problem on a number of occasions for the police department here. You'd have people in crisis, and there'd be nowhere to put them.
Correct.
So I'm really gratified to see this is happening, and thank you.
Anybody else? All right. We're looking for a motion to amendments for the Sanford Medical Center and the.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract amendments with Sanford Medical Health Center, Fargo, and Prairie St. John, Fargo, to reflect the 2025 statutory updates.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, the same. Motion carried. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Quinn. All right, next we have the Pollution Control Agency and Partnership for Health Board contract presentation. We have Kathy and Kent here today. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Almost said morning, but whew. Thank you for having us. I am joined with Kent. As you know, he's environmental health, so this kind of fits under his purview. And then we have Patrick is our health promotion, SHIP, statewide health improvement program person that we would also elicit some help in this process. So I'll just maybe go into some information about how this transpired. As you know, the Pollution Control Agency had fined Bush Agriculture Resources, which is located in Moorhead, based on a failure to do some performance tests and exceeding the permitted particulate matter emissions, which, if you want to know more in detail on that, Kent can probably describe that. And this happened in one of their inspections in 2023, so it's been kind of an ongoing thing. The violations then were, and I sent the public information sheet out in your packets, but it lists some of the violations that they did not meet. But the measured amounts of, some of it exceeded permit limits, but was not expected to have harmed public health. So in other words, their air quality emissions, they deemed that would not be a public health issue with people. Am I explaining that right? Kent, you can jump in.
I believe so. This has been just as new to us as anybody. This doesn't happen very often, as we understand it, and even speaking with state staff, it was a lot of thought before talking in our conversations because it's something that's hasn't happened too often. So we have been working through it together with the PCA, and so.
Correct. So PCA and also MDH has been, we've been having multiple discussions. There's some statutory language which requires a certain level of fines. So if they are over a certain amount, then part of that has to go to the public health agency to follow up in the community. Now, again, this happened quite long ago, and so PCA and MDH are not aware of any issues with the population in regards to this. So we're still required by statute to follow up and do some community efforts to determine what the community, the residents, citizens of our community would want to see with the amount of money that we are going to receive, and that is $129,540. So public health, through the CHB, this contract was through our Community Health Board, our 4-county CHB. And so because it's only affecting Moorhead and the residents here, then it goes straight to public health. And we did receive the check for that amount of money from PCA last week. So we just received that now. So now the task for public health is to convene some meetings in our community to determine what the residents and citizens would like us to do with the amount of money we have been allocated to dispense.
Could you say that amount again?
The amount was $129,540. So the amount that you can see the amount that they fined Bush Agriculture Resources was $323,850.
Yeah.
So it was a portion of that we received. I believe it's 40% of that amount that public health receives. So that's our task. We have 1 year from the time frame when we received the funding. So we received the funding just last week or a week and a half ago. And so we have 1 year from that date to convene the community meetings to determine what does the community want to see happen with this funding. What environmentally? I'll give you an example. We are the only second one in the whole state of Minnesota that has received funding underneath this statute. The first one was in East Grand Forks. That was a violation by Crystal Sugars, Crystal Sugar Company, and they had approximately just a little bit more than what we're receiving. And their community, through their length of meetings, they decided to work on Griggs Park Trailhead for a certain amount of money. They did some community tree planting. They did a library, art, and sensory garden. And then they did some ADA improvements with a particular park. Now, the difference is Crystal Sugar is still in operations there. So they were really kind of focusing around that Crystal Sugar area. This, with the Bush agricultural business, that is no longer in operation. So we don't necessarily have to focus on that area, although the statute kind of states in that particular area is something we would need to work with the community on.
Yeah, and I think the difference there too is the immediate area right around the bush plant is pretty open field, and there's not any residential settings directly adjacent to it. So pairing that up with some of the details of the testing, you know, some of these PM10 tests for particulate matter were above their standards, but yet not above the federal standards. And then there were also some tests that just were not, that had not happened or had not been done when they should have been. So there, in what we know, there hasn't been any reason to think that there was anything really harmful that happened here. We're following the statutes and the way that things were written for the second time in the history of that statute. So state staff are looking at things very closely as they can before they answer our questions, because they're not well versed with it too. So we're working through it.
So Cassie, so you go through and you get some community input on different things that could be used, but ultimately who makes the decision on what?
Well, they want the community to provide all the input, and then from there, I guess we work with those community. I would ultimately think we would probably need to provide some direction, because if we just ask the community.
Yeah, I've never known, you know, dollars like that to just be,
Yeah,
you know,
I think there has to be.
community spent. I mean, certainly the community, you know, and how wide of an area are you talking about here? The entire city, or are you?
Yeah.
Is this within a defined area, or?
I could kind of speak to that a bit, because through this process, I had the same, you know, questions. What are we doing here? How are we going to do it? And through one of the things that we talked about, we're walking in bike paths. And I said, okay, with a dollar amount like this, what kind of length of path could we get for something like that amount? And it sounds like maybe a mile or two. So that kind of helps put it in perspective a little bit when we're thinking about the possibilities of what it could be used for. So.
And Mr. Chair and Commissioners, the statute is really, we must meet directly with the residents potentially affected by the pollution, which in this case, there hasn't been any known effects for the people.
You said in the report there was no harm done to residents, right?
Right. What MPCA has told us is there was no harm to the public with their violation, with the air violation. Anything over, I found the litigation, so anything over 250,000, if there's that fine, then 250,000 or more, that is what drives whether public health is involved with some of this work. So it is pretty, I mean, Moorhead is a big city, and to try to get all of that input, we have talked internally about ways. We have Patrick on the line. He's done a lot of work with planning and zoning, so he might be helpful in helping us determine who we can meet with and how. We would probably talk to the city of Moorhead because it's in their jurisdiction. Just maybe they would have some ideas. So there's lots to determine how we should, you know, it's going to be quite a bit of an effort to get out to various community organizations and residents to determine what they would see as potential.
And that's public health doing that.
Yeah, it's health.
And I would say there, per the statute, I mean, it really is, I guess, public health, but there is oversight. There's a requirement for a report to the legislature.
That's correct.
After 1 year, so the Senate and House has to have it, and it has like some very specific, have to have an account of expenditures, has to have specifics of what the activities and purpose were. I mean, so however it's ultimately made and decided, I mean, it is going to be reported on, you know, to the legislature.
Is the fiscal host Clay County? Public health?
No, the fiscal host is actually the Community Health Board, but Clay County Public Health is the one that receipted the money. So we are responsible for those funds and how it's allocated. Now, Brian is right. The process of community engagement is something we'd have to report back to the legislatures, the purpose and activities for which the funds were used, and an account of the expenditures. So there is kind of that report that we would have to submit back after 1 year to the legislatures, so.
Commissioner Ebinger.
Yeah, I've discussed this with Kathy. This year, I'm the chair of the Partnership for Health. We will have to have meetings. I think East Grand Forks had 3 or 4 of them.
They had at least 4, and then they did a QR code to get some residents that couldn't go to meetings.
But we've got partners like Moorhead Schools. They have the the Career Academy that is in close proximity to where this happened. You know, they may have a program that would benefit from it, but we don't know what partners are out there until we have the meeting, see who comes in. But as we all know, this is a nice sum, but it's not gonna go.
No. No. You know, I would suggest maybe somebody take a look at recycling programs too, which are, you know, something that is environmentally friendly, that, I'm assuming that's kind of where this is supposed to go towards, so.
And Mr. Chair and Commissioners, because of all the work that we're going to have to provide in convening all these and writing the report, we can keep a percentage
Okay.
of that 129,540. So the legislature has stated that a reasonable percentage could be kept by those of us that are doing the work.
Well, I think you should be keeping track of the work that goes into this by paid personnel anyway.
Sure. And I don't know, Commissioner and, or Mr. Chair and Commissioners, if Patrick has anything. He's on remote, and I don't know if, Patrick, you had anything to add?
Everything that you've said so far corresponds with my understanding. I just wanted to make one more point, and Kathy, you're certainly welcome to correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we have 12 months not only to determine what to use the money for, but to actually use the money. So the time pressure is even greater. Am I correct on that?
Correct.
Yep.
Well, I guess, anytime that you're gonna, if you have community involvement, you're gonna probably have a lot of different ideas that are gonna
Correct,
be
yes.
floated out there, and it goes back to who's gonna be making that decision, you know?
That is the question, and I think that's where Patrick will probably help a lot too, having some experience with reaching out and engaging the community on some of these things, so we're hoping that'll help shape the conversation that is gonna happen here, and probably would have no doubt that City of Moorhead will probably be, a major partner, or more likely, so.
And Patrick has done a lot of environmental things through the SHIP program, so with his area of expertise, that might be helpful as well to determine what kinds of things we can be looking at, or what we can offer for suggestions. And we'll have to vet out, costs and who wants to do what with some environmental ideas.
And not to go too far in the weeds, but what about the facility itself that created the issue?
Well, they were fined.
Yeah, but, so is that property for sale, or,
Oh,
yeah, so I'm assuming that's for sale, and, would they be using those same type of, burners, or?
I think.
Is there,
The downtown Moorhead, I've had a discussion on this briefly. It's really going to be a desirable piece of land, particularly if some things that are developing happen. And they've already been contacted by a couple of people. I think, and this is just speculation on my part, but from the sounds of it, I don't think that facility's really a key marketing aspect of the property, the location, and the potential to be near the new fuel processing and some of the developments that are going on in Moorhead.
Yeah.
Seems to be the draw, so I don't know. I think there's a good chance that equipment, or that building itself, it may be necessary to remove it. That's a possibility, so.
Yep. If I may, I agree with that, and some of the reading that we've done here, I think there are some major changes that would be needed for that building to continue on in that same, so I don't think the building itself is a major part of the property.
Again, just speculation, but I think that may be by Anheuser-Busch. They got a couple of big fines, and they looked at their equipment, and maybe they decided it was.
well,
take their sign and go to Texas.
Yeah, I guess I'm just wondering if there, if there might be something environmentally that comes up, whether it's if there is a tear down of the building or whatever too, might there still be some issues that are related to environmental that nobody's gonna wanna.
I think that would probably be the responsibility of a developer.
Well, yeah, but it can also make it very expensive for a developer.
Yep.
All right, well, I think we'll just wait. I'm assuming you're gonna start the public process and reach out to the community and see where it goes, huh?
Yep.
Are you leading that charge, Kent? No?
Patrick will help.
It'll be all of us. We're kind of muddling our way
Yes.
through, yeah. But
We,
as was stated, we got 12 months, so.
Yeah, 12 months is not a real long time when we think about all of the work that needs to be done, and then, completing whatever it is that the community decides, completing all of that work for $100,000-something thousand, so.
And there's no dispute amongst the 4 county members as to where that money should go to, right?
Well, the legislator wrote it as funds coming to the Community Health Board, but there is no other impact in those other 3 counties, so they wouldn't be allocated any of this money. We verified that with
Okay.
our grant manager.
Answers my question.
Yep.
just for transparency, I would want this to be on the next agenda for the Committee for Public Health. Just so it's obvious that we're not trying to get this by them if they're, if there was any entitlement for them. But it's pretty clear that it's Clay County that's been impacted.
Yes, and thank you for that. We could not share that at our last Community Health Board meeting because it was still confidential.
Okay. All right, so today it's pretty much information. Steve, did you have something?
No, yeah, I think information only, and I think just to clear what Kent said, it's very strange in talking with the grant manager and at the MPCA and DHS. Really, this is a situation in which Clay County is receiving dollars for something that didn't happen. From the standpoint of impacts on our citizens.
Right.
And so I think if, for people that are watching today, that's the takeaway. They weren't put in situations of danger. This is something that the legislature shared. The DHS person said if the board was confused, they would be happy to come and explain the same thing that Kathy and Kent have done. But I think the big important part to our citizens is that there wasn't an impact to their health based on the violations that were discovered.
Correct.
I got one comment.
Yes, Commissioner Bear.
Once you figure out what we're gonna spend this money on, can you come back and give us an update on that?
Sure, absolutely.
Well, yeah, and that again goes to I think one of my first questions is who makes the final decision?
Is that us? I assume that makes the final decision?
No,
No?
no, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, you do not get to make the final decision because it came through the Community Health Board. So actually, Public Health works with the community and then comes up with some shared solutions, so.
All right, yeah, an update would be nice.
Okay.
It is that it's the Community Health Board, Public Health that make that decision.
All right.
Yeah, let's see, so last week we received the check, so sometime June of '26, everything has to be completed and then a report submitted.
All right, well, we'll hear back from you then. Is there anything else that we need to discuss regarding that?
We'll be reaching out if we would like some assistance. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we have the request approval of draft contract for Restorative Practices Initiatives Grant. Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. I'll pretty much turn this over to Michelle, but exciting news, as you may recall back, I didn't realize it was already back in November when we came before the board. It seemed not as long ago, but then Steve reminded me that was back in November. But we had come here, asked about the opportunity to apply for a grant. The amount that was at least initially available was $500,000. We put in for the grant, and I'll have Michelle ultimately describe the areas that we looked at to try to address in regard to restorative practices. But ultimately, we were awarded $230,000. So I think it's a very exciting part for the restorative justice program and the chance to expand some services across the county. And I think it really goes to show, I know Commissioner Ebinger has been at some of the meetings, but just some of the work that's been done and being done, and I think it really showed through during the review process and having the individuals there that we're talking about and showing that our program really does stand out. So I think it was looking to try to reward success and look to build on that. And so this is an opportunity for 18 months to use some money. But I'll have Michelle kind of talk through it a little bit more and walk through some of the things that we're looking to do. Turn your
So we were approved for this Restorative Practices Initiative grant. I had learned 55 programs or entities had applied. I think they awarded 31 of those programs. So obviously 500,000 was a big ask for us. So really to come down to a point of 230,000 is still a great opportunity, and I think we can get a lot of work and really great things within this 18 months. So today in front of you is just the draft of the grant agreement. I am waiting for the final one from the Office of Justice Programs. The possibility that might change is the effective date. We do have, because we're a government entity, we have the availability to start this July 1st and go through December of 2026. So the ask from the grant administrator was to get the draft contract approved with signage later, both from the county board chair and the county administrator. So really what we're looking for is, with our work and some of the initial funding that we got through ARPA and some of the public safety funds, we really wanted to continue this work. We were really seeing some great success in the numbers of youth that were able to assist and address issues both at the school setting but also in the community. We're out within all of the districts, in the school districts within the county, so all of our communities are being served. But we were definitely at a capacity for our growth because of it. I think doing great things is really good, but sometimes that creates then more opportunities for more work ahead of us. So what we're hoping with this funding, what we had wrote in for the grant, is to have a part-time facilitator to partner up with Lucas Brandon, who's our full-time coordinator right now, to take on some of those additional cases and referrals that we're getting. We're also able to do some training and professional development. We're working with a professor at UND who will do a program evaluation for us and really have a comprehensive plan at the end of this about the success, how we're gathering data, and the effectiveness of this work. And then we also have built in ongoing supports for our more at-risk or the higher risk kids that we're working with, so that after they're done with their diversion process, we can then hand those students off to even more supportive services in our schools, in our community. So part of this too is, as Brian said, Commissioner Ebinger has been part of our Restorative Practices Advisory Council and Committee, and so that RPAC is what we call. We'll be meeting quarterly throughout this grant cycle as well. So over these 18 months, to kind of just, again, have input from our partners and make sure that we're kind of following through the grant requirements that we're looking at. So I just am hoping to get approval on the contract.
Commissioner Ebinger.
Yeah, this has been a really well-executed, well-planned endeavor to get Michelle has done a remarkable job, not just on the grant work, but drawing in people in the community who really are engaged. And Lucas and some of the people at the school district, just fantastic people. The first meeting we had the director from the state agency here. He went away so impressed that when we had AMC last year, the Public Safety Committee met, and he presented. And he identified Clay County's proposals here as ideal and as what they're looking for. So I don't have to tell Brian that he's got a really good person
Oh, thank you.
handling this operation, but I've seen it up close and it's remarkable. You've done a great job. And we'll give a lot of credit to the people that have come in the community and engaged
Yep.
so strongly. This is something that's been with us a long time. They had restorative justice when I got here in '08. And it's something we need to continue to support, but this lets us take it to the next level, and it's pretty exciting. Having said all that, I'll make a motion to approve the draft contract for restorative practices initiatives grant award.
I will second that.
We have a motion by Commissioner Ebinger, second by Commissioner Bear. Further discussion. So on this, so originally you had applied for a $500,000 grant, and we were fortunate to at least get the 230, right?
For sure.
So Brian, how is that something that you're going to incorporate into your county attorney's budget then for the remainder of the second half of 2025 and then all of 2026?
Right, we'd have to look at how that can be accounted for. I mean, a portion of it, I think, as Michelle said, and we'd asked for before, a part-time person to help Lucas, but there's also money within there to pay a portion of his salary. So we'll incorporate that. Really, the remainder of it largely is either grants or contracts that we're looking to do with other people like F5 and some of these other facilitators that, as Michelle mentioned, can help take things even, beyond what we're already doing. So some of those are contracts. So I don't know that we would incorporate all that because we're gonna just pay that out. And then some of it, again, for payments to do some analysis on it as well. But there's, I think, a portion or a way to put that into to a budget.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure what portion of it would be 2025.
I don't know if we know that, I haven't looked at that exactly yet, how to exactly put that in there, but.
And so we kind of just pared down everything, and I would say all of our partners have been so supportive. I mean, I think everyone was just so grateful for both the opportunity and what this means. And so we didn't need to cut any of the contracts or any of the work that we're doing. We probably will reduce a little bit, but everybody was really willing to rework their budgets that they were sending to us in that way. And I think the original ask for this additional staff was full-time in our grant application, so that we brought down to a part-time, recognizing that too.
And I just want to go back to what Commissioner Ebery said about the Restorative Justice Program. We've had that here in Clay County for a long time. It's been very successful, and it's had full support from this board for many years. And I think that the success of that program has probably a reason for this being able to, as Dave said, take this to the next level. I think we have a good track record from past experiences to go on that puts us in a good position to do that. And your work on that has been very, very helpful, so.
Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Krebenoff.
Yeah. So I just wanted to shout out kudos, congratulations. I know how hard you've worked on this and very excited. One question I did have, you talked about training.
Yep.
And I was just curious, is that an internal training that you're already doing, or is it something that you're developing out within the schools or whatever?
Yeah, so it's, so we actually presented at a conference at MSUM, and our presentation was from courtroom to classroom. So how we took our program really from the traditional court process now into the schools. So we're partnering with a program or an organization called Circle Up Education, and it's focused primarily on restorative practices in a school setting. Okay. So they're gonna provide us even some more training on being able to provide this in the schools and make it more widespread in the schools. So all of that will be mostly virtual with that agency, and then they'll do some ongoing support too. So some of these contracts that we had, we recognized that they probably are within that 18 months, and then we might not need to sustain that part of it once we get the training. They also will provide us train the trainer. So I know one of our partners. Jeff Nyquist is interested in getting the training to then go out and do trainings within our schools in Clay County. So kind of building that sustainability within that component.
Thank you, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Motion carried. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Brian.
much.
Appreciate it.
All right, next we have a request approval of Clay County Board to sign a 30-day timeline waiver for the public hearing to provide input for proposed establishment of a tax increment financing district number 1-11, Creative Rentals, and we have Karen Lauer here from Barnesville. Good afternoon, Karen.
Good afternoon.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. I think I alluded to this project at one of the earlier meetings that I was at. Approximately 6 years ago, our Economic Development Board purchased some property on the edge of the community with a vision that this would create an opportunity for multifamily housing. And since that time, we've been actively working to identify a developer that would in fact be interested in creating a multifamily housing project on that site. A little bit of background there, the site itself was not large enough, and so we needed to acquire some additional adjacent property as well as vacate a right-of-way. Now, the parcel that is in place is large enough to accommodate a 31-unit, two-story apartment building. And the developer has requested financial assistance in the way of tax increment financing. So he is proposing to utilize state statute and create a housing district, which does in fact put in place some income limits for a percentage of the units. And this is a rental facility. So under that type of tax increment financing, the income restrictions remain in place through the life of the district. We've been working with this individual for close to a year now. These large projects have a lot of moving parts, and we've reached a point where in order for him to start construction this year, we really do need to fast track this project. So the city of Barnesville and the Barnesville EDA works with Ellers as our financial advisor. So I've been working closely with Todd Hagan from Ellers over the course of the last year. And so we come before you today to request a 30-day timeline waiver. Minnesota state statute indicates that this is required if in fact the public hearing is being held on a date that doesn't allow for the standard notification. And in order to get this project underway, the developer hopes to pull a building permit in July. The city council has taken action to call for a public hearing on the creation of the tax increment financing district. That public hearing will be held on July 14th. And following state statute requirements, the publication for the public hearing will take place in the Record Review newspaper of July 30th. June 30th. So it doesn't really allow for the 30-day requirement, or would set the project back to a point that it might be difficult for the developer to enclose the project to be able to continue construction over the winter. The timeline as it sits now is he would pull the building permit in July with construction to be completed in May of 2026. So in respect to the the commissioners, we do ask that you support us in our efforts to create this affordable housing project in the community, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Karen. I do want to mention that I have a letter here from Commissioner Mojo that she wanted to be part of the record, so I think I'll just read it because she would have been wanting to make those comments had she been here. And it says, "Dear Ms. Lauer and members of the Barnesville Economic Development Authority, as the Clay County Commissioner representing Barnesville and its surrounding communities, I want to express my full support for the proposed tax increment financing district number 1-11 Creative Rentals. This project is critically important to the economic development of Barnesville. The addition of a 32 to 36 unit apartment complex will address a significant need for diverse housing options in our growing community. Safe, affordable, and accessible housing is the foundation of a thriving economy and a resilient workforce, and this project will provide much-needed opportunities for individuals and families who want to live and work in the area. While I regret that I am unable to attend the related discussion at the Clay County Board of Commissioners meeting, I respectfully request that my comments be entered into the record. I also support the city's request to waive the 30-day notification requirement to help keep the project moving forward in a timely manner. Thank you to the Barnesville EDA and City Council for your leadership in pursuing this forward-looking development. I remain committed to supporting housing growth and economic opportunity in Barnesville." And that is from Commissioner Mojo. Commissioner Ebinger.
Yeah, I appreciate Commissioner Mojo's thoughts on this. We need housing. It's one of the priorities in this county. We have a community in Barnesville that is engaged and done a lot of good things and thoughtful processes, and they're responsible. And we certainly understand trying to get a building project in the dry before winter sets in, because we've had a couple of them ourselves. So, all that being said, I'd be happy to make a motion to approve the signing of a 30-day timeline waiver for public hearing to provide input for proposed establishment of a tax increment financing district 1-11 Creative Rentals.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Ebinger, second by Commissioner Krabanoff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the same. Carried. All right, Karen,
Thank you for your
go.
support. It
Yeah.
means a lot to us.
you bet. All right, next we have our committee reports. Commissioner Ebinger, would you start, please?
Sure. Last Wednesday, attended a meeting of the Positive Community Norms Grant Group that has been working on a grant for the last 5 years, or it's had a grant for the last 5 years, bringing positive community norms into the DGF school district, or DGF school district. We had a review of what they've done over the last 4 years, and it has had an impact on the use of tobacco products, marijuana, and alcohol within the school district there, through the self-reporting, of course adjusted, but self-reporting surveys they do every year. They've come up with a plan for the last year of the grant, which will be this upcoming school year. They also will, right now, it looks like there's going to be a submission for a possible drug-free community grant that would work towards picking up what they've done here and continuing to fund it. On Thursday, attended Beyond the Yellow Ribbon meeting. We have a new member on the Beyond the Yellow Ribbon Committee. Dr. Brandon Lunick is representing the school district, and he appeared Said he's very happy to be part of it. It was pretty much what happens in the summer. We had a sparse attendance, and there was general discussions and reporting on some of the Veterans Resource Outreach Directorate, MSUM, just kind of touching base on what they're covering. It was just a general business meeting. Later that day, I spoke with Kathy McKay on the item we had today on the Anheuser-Busch properties and the funding that was coming our way, and she covered that thoroughly. On Monday the 6th, we had our quarterly meeting of the Dancing Sky Area Agency on Aging. There are potential, and I'll say potential, grant funding that is not going to meet what we've had over the last few years. There are some opportunities out there where we may be able to augment the funding, but a lot of it has to do with the SNAP and the food funding that is being cut back. And it's a pass-through from the state, and the federal funds may or may not be there. A lot of it's just unknown. Again, covered general business. And that completes my report.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Krabanoff.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So last Tuesday on the 10th, had our Clay County Law Library meeting. We meet quarterly. They gave financial updates. Obviously, a lot of things are going on in the courts, and that fund is for the work that the Clay County receives is directly from the amount of court cases that we have here. And that fund has built its way up to about $100,000. So want to knock that down. So we're going to be making some investments into more materials in the library. And I think Judge Rosenfeld and a couple others will be kind of working to collaborate what would be best needed down there. Within the law library, we have our legal clinics. I believe it's 3 days a week. And it's been nice and steady. Most people go down there to get background, to represent or get information, represent themselves and or get further information, mostly in the areas of family law, which could involve divorces and child custody. So anyway, good meeting, and it's nice that we're able to have good participation with the library in our community. Next, let's see, next morning on the 11th, we had the Clay County Extension Committee, and the Extension Committee, this is a quarterly meeting. We had a guest speaker talking about growing local leadership for educators. It was a program that started in 2024. 21 counties are involved with it, learning, creating skills for emerging leaders. She talked in depth about that, and the rest of the meeting, quite a bit, dealt with the upcoming Clay County Fair, which is going to be July 10th through the 13th, and certainly 4-H is and the extension is a huge part of that. So all the events, make sure people come, see their projects, and meet the kids and see their animals. On the 11th, I had the Clay County Collaborative. We met, and it was a good, a fun meeting, and I thought. So we had any of the groups that received funds through the collaborative this year came and gave a short synopsis of what their grant was about and how they utilize it. So each of them, and most of them had a lot to do with schools, and just to hear the work that's being done and seeing where money is going, it's just such a healthy thing to be doing for our community. So that was that, going through all those. On Thursday, the 12th, Clay SWCD monthly board meeting. With that one, we had some cost-share contracts of projects that had been finished up. The stream bank up by the north of Glendon, $170,000 project. And much like our road construction, we're seeing it in our work that we're doing on projects with one watershed, one plan for environmental projects. Same thing, bids are coming in lower than estimated, which is good. More work with the money that we have. Cost share contracts for waste facility closure, a pollinator planting out by Sabin and replacement of some trees or other parts of approval for cost share. They went through their county budget that they'll be presenting to us. It looks like, well, I'll wait for them to present it. I won't give the amount yet. And then the just further update on the Buffalo Red One Watershed, One Plan. They're in that pool of funds that they have, much like Wild Rice. They have 1.9 million among their group to spend on projects is their current time. And yeah, that's probably what I'll report. Ezra was at the meeting also. He can chime in on that one. Then today, this morning, Commissioner Campbell and I were part of a discussion on paid family medical leave. Now that the session is ended, we know pretty much what's going to be coming up starting in 26. And so we just did a little discussion of what it would be. The options would be the state plan, or if we'd look at a potential private plan instead. And I think there are many unanswered questions yet between the two as we get deeper in the weeds. So it's just wait and see, and we'll have further discussions as we move toward the end of the year. Right after that, we had our Clay County insurance meeting, and I'm happy to report on that one. For the premiums that we took in, our claims were less, and so that really is going to be helping us out as we have a renewal coming up to for our next period of years. We don't know exactly what that will be yet, but it looks like we've done our whole employee group has done a really good job of preventative care, and our claims are down, and mainly our prescription needs are lower this year too, with more people. So I think we'll be, when they put the RFP out for bids for those companies that may want to insure us, I think we're in good light right now for some competitive bids, and hopefully an increase would be minor. So that's my report.
Thank you. All right, on, let's see, I'll let you go, Ezra.
On Wednesday, June 11th, I had the Wild Rice Watershed District Managers board meeting up in Ada, and they passed 8 permits, with most of them were all drain tile installs, and they tabled 5 more to get more information on that. And then we also had good discussion on district-owned land. Right now, the Wild Rice District is sitting on about 364 acres owned in Clay County, with a project in that, when they originally purchased this land, a project on the table, but they haven't moved that forward for the last 5 or 6 years. And they just finished a project about a mile south of there. So with these 364 acres in Clay County, they don't know exactly what to do with them. So they're figuring out what long-term, what they should do with the acres, if they sell them or just keep doing what they're doing right now. They are renting them out for a contract to be farmed. So we had great discussion on that. And then later that afternoon, I also attended the Clay County Collaborative. Commissioner Krabanoff gave a very good report there. It was very, very good meeting with an update on how everybody that received grant money and how they're spending it. And yeah, most of it is being used on our youth in the county. So that was very informative. And then on June 12th, I also attended the SWCD with Krabanoff. And the other thing I would want to mention there is they're wrapping up tree planting, and they planted what they planted. They sold about 10,000 trees. They're wrapping up planting right now and they planted about 4,267 trees with just about 3 members that work there. So a lot got done in a very short window and between the rains. So yeah, the trees they planted in my yard, all of them are alive still and growing good. So that's all I have to report on that, and that was all my meetings.
All
Chairman.
right, thank you. On Tuesday, June 10th, we had a Diversion Authority Planning Committee meeting. We gave an update on the Minnesota funding for, at the end of legislative session. There wasn't a lot to update on there. We spend an awful lot of time talking about operations and maintenance moving forward. We're getting closer to switching from construction to that part of it. So the plan, they're really moving forward with the positive plan. We still got on this side of the river determine how we're going to be able to collect those. The city of Moorhead may use just part of their utility for theirs, but then there's certain benefited areas in Clay County where we would have to come up with a plan for those benefited areas for the operations and maintenance. We've spent some time talking about the current governance policy that's in place, and with the new administrator now in place, he's been reviewing that and looking at a few modifications to that policy. And we talked about a mid-year review of the administrator to be done in July, at the July board meeting. And then we are looking at having a fall retreat again to be held in September for the full board. That concludes that one. Then on the June 11th, we had the Red River Regional Dispatch Center Budget and Finance Committee meeting. We went through the 2025 year-to-date budget and then the 2026 draft budget, which was then moved to go forward to the full board for the meeting later this month. And the current draft proposal that goes forward would show a 4.77% increase over last year. And there's some considerable factors involved there. Of course, we're dealing with moving into a new building and keeping the old building as a backup for emergency purposes. And so that'll go before the full dispatch board later this month. On Thursday, June 12th, we had a Clay County Solid Waste Advisory Committee meeting. We got quite a few updates from Corey on different things going on at the landfill and within the resource recovery facility. And I gave the update on the PERM process, which I gave here last time at our last board meeting. Corey's here if he wants to add anything. Okay. And then the other thing I had today, we did have the we did meet this morning. Commissioner Krabanoff and I did meet to discuss the Paid Family Leave Act issues. And the big discussion now, there's an awful lot of the counties are going through the process. Do we stay with the state or do we go private? And I think Ann has done a really good job starting to put together a lot of information, and there's some really close numbers. I think Darren's been involved with it as well, and the numbers are close. We're not ready to make or even to suggest which direction we should go yet. There's multiple factors in there. One of them would be if we left, and then we'd have to go to a completely new open enrollment system or hire a new open enrollment system at around 18 grand. So some of these things end up, maybe showing a wash and that. But they're doing a good job on that. If I were to say today, I would think it'd probably be stay with the state, but there's more to come on that. Then immediately after that, as Commissioner Kravliff said, we did have our Benefits Committee meeting. We got a lot of good news, as Paul talked about. We did have premiums over claims. When you add both the medical and the drug claims, for 2025, we were $451,000 to the good in terms of claims versus premiums. But then when you take into consideration the admin costs, we lost money. But the admin costs, somebody made money on it, and it wasn't Clay County. So anyway, and just going through the formulas as was presented today, and of course we still have to go through that process, but there's the increases are looking very, very promising. Yeah, that's the word that I was going to. Thank you, Darren. And again, it's a lot of good work on the part of Anna and Darren and Steve from NIS helping us. So I think we've got a meeting scheduled for the middle of July, 22nd of July. The insurance committee will meet again, and hopefully and by then we will have, I think on July 3rd, 1st, they'll be opening bids. You want to put your mic on, or talk into your mic there.
I think they said that the bids will be back on July 1st.
Okay.
And then they'll take a couple weeks to go back and forth with the bid,
Yeah.
and then on July 22nd, they'll present that to us, and then we'll probably have to make some decisions at that point.
Okay. All right. Yeah, but just based on the early indications I think by our advisors, it seems like we're going to be in a fairly good position compared to early on what they were projecting was a higher. I'm not going to get into percentages here because I don't want to sway the people bidding on this thing here, but it's looking positive. And that concludes my report. Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Last Wednesday, participated in management. We touched on budget items. We talked about legislation, special session. We had updates from Anna and Darren in regards to human resources. That afternoon, had a conversation with the executive director of the Flood Diversion Authority about the Minnesota legislative funding. Spent a significant amount of time last week completing the MMB documents. They were turned in by the end of the week, both for flood mitigation for the PRTF, and then also work closely with the Buffalo Red in getting their application submitted. We did receive verification that the state did receive those that day, and the following day I did have conversations with the MPCA and DHS earlier to better understand the item that we had on the agenda today. On the 12th, met with Darren and Anna in regards to a personnel matter. On the 13th, met with Mr. Melton on a series of county issues. Also had 3 different department head discussions. Yesterday met with, or had a phone conversation with Scott Fettig, talked about the legislative wrap-up in regards to our PRTF, and also had an item that will be coming to board next week for your consideration about another 179D energy efficiency designer request. Participated today in the paid family medical leave in the insurance committee. That's been well covered. And participated this afternoon in the city manager meeting. We discussed budgets, fire districts, and cannabis legislative session. Also talked with Dan Molly on a series of county city issues. And just a reminder to our citizens that we will be closed Thursday the 19th in observation of Juneteenth. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Brian, anything for us? All right. Darren?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tuesday the 10th, we got a report of some alleged stolen money in one of the departments, so we started an investigation on that. Wednesday, the 11th of June, I also attended the manager's meeting, which has already been covered. Also started some data for that investigation that was reported on Tuesday. Thursday, the 12th, I also attended the SWAC meeting, which has already been covered. Then we had a planning meeting for the county picnic, which is next week, so hopefully everybody got their invite, and we'll be there on the 24th. We had a meeting with Steve and Anna regarding the personnel issue, which Steve has covered, and we also had a meeting with the consultant regarding the open enrollment platform. On Friday the 13th, I had Kimberly's evaluation, another one of Team Brooks' stellar performers, and Corey, and Jill. Is Jill there? Oh yeah, Jill's there too. All my stellar performers are here today. Had a phone call with Keith Turlenden, who is the business agent for the deputies, and we're looking at taking the sergeants out of the deputies bargaining unit and putting them into the lieutenant's bargaining unit. I did talk with Mark and Chris about that, and they're okay with that as well. So there's a lot of details that we'll have to get, the devil's in the details on how we're going to do that. On Friday, also the 13th, at a MCCC RFP meeting and started work on the performance measurement program, which I'll be bringing to the board on July 1st. On Monday, the 16th, I'm prepping for a Laudermill hearing that I have tomorrow. And then had a discussion with Anna on some ongoing personnel issues. Today, Tuesday the 17th, most of this has been covered. We had the RFP discussions with the commissioners, Gravenhoff and Campbell, insurance committee meeting, and right before this meeting, I had a safety committee meeting where we covered, reviewed the quarterly accident report, MCIT risk assessment, which we had and had very good results on that. And let's see, that's probably about good enough for now.
All right.
That's all.
Okay, Paul.
Yeah, I just forgot one meeting, so I just on Monday the 16th, I had my finance meeting with the Historical Cultural Society, just knowing they're doing well this year. Admissions, gift shop sales, and grants are all up, so hopefully we'll hold that course. That's all. Thank you.
Sarah, do you have anything for us? Nothing for you, okay. All right, I guess that does it for today. We are adjourned.